Some people think rejection is always dramatic, like screaming, blocking, meltdowns, and public call out posts. But honestly, the strangest kind of rejection is the quiet kind. The kind where nothing technically happens, but afterward, someone who used to smile at you starts talking to you like they're holding broken glass in their mouth. And I don't think enough people talk about how common this is in online spaces, especially creator spaces, especially lonely spaces, especially communities built around late night voice calls, emotional oversharing, and people pretending they're just friends while slowly building entire emotional realities around each other. I met someone online a while back through mutual communities and streaming circles. And at first, I honestly just thought he was awkward. Not bad, not creepy, just emotionally heavy. The kind of person who always somehow looped conversations back to self esteem and aging and insecurity, loneliness, health issues, feeling unattractive, or feeling left behind. And because I tend to attract emotionally strange people, like a raccoon attracting cursed objects, I accepted him pretty easily. We became friendly. We talked pretty often, shared communities. We played games sometimes, typical online friendship stuff. And over time, I noticed something. He constantly needed reassurance. Not directly, not in an obvious manipulative way, but constantly fishing for it emotionally, talking about appearance, talking about how old he felt, comparing himself to other creators, making self deprecating jokes, and then waiting to see how people reacted. Those conversations where someone says, "Man, I'm hideous," but what they actually mean is, "Please tell me I'm not." Well, that over and over. And because I genuinely cared about him as a friend, I reassured him. I told him he looked fine. I told him he was being too hard on himself. I listened to his stories about his family, his health problems, his insecurities. And honestly, at the time, I didn't think much of it because online friendships become weirdly intimate, weirdly fast. You, you can know someone for 2 months online and accidentally end up discussing trauma at 3 a.m. while your game loads. The internet skips stages, and I think that's important context. Because eventually there was this moment where I realized, oh no, I think this emotional tone might not be equal. Not because he confessed anything, not because he flirted openly, but because there was this emotional sensitivity underneath everything. Like he cared too much about tiny interactions, tiny word changes, tiny perceived slights, tiny jokes. And once I noticed it, I suddenly became hyper aware of how careful I was being around him. That's usually the first sign something's wrong, by the way. When talking to someone starts feeling like diffusing a bomb made entirely out of feelings. So eventually, I tried to do the mature thing. I sent a message clarifying boundaries gently, and I was extremely careful about it. I basically said, "You're a great friend. I value you, but I want to make sure that nothing is being misinterpreted." That's it. No accusation, no humiliation, no ew, no cruelty, just clarity. Because I think people deserve honesty before resentment starts growing in secret. And his response? On paper, it looked perfectly polite. That's the weird part. If you only read the words quickly, you'd think, oh, This seems fine. But emotionally, it felt off immediately. Like someone trying really hard to appear unaffected while absolutely being affected. Things like, we're good. Don't sweat it. I didn't take it the worst way possible. And that sentence stayed in my head. Because what does that actually mean? I didn't take it the worst way possible. That means he did take it personally. People who genuinely aren't hurt don't phrase things like damage control statements. And then came the part I think a lot of women online recognize instantly: the vibe shift. Not immediately explosive, not obvious enough for outsiders to point at, just different. Suddenly, conversations felt colder. Streams felt different. Comments had little edges on them now. Tiny, dismissive jokes. Less warmth. More sarcasm. More subtle social positioning. And the hardest part about this kind of thing is that if you try explaining it to other people, you sound insane. Because there's no single bad message. There's no smoking gun. Just the emotional whiplash of somebody slowly turning against you after realizing you aren't going to become what they had hoped. And honestly, I think this happens constantly online, especially in creator communities where loneliness gets disguised as networking. People start emotionally depending on each other without admitting it. Viewers do it to streamers. Streamers do it to each other. Mods do it. And friends do it. Everybody's sitting in Discord calls at midnight pretending this is all casual, while secretly attaching enormous emotional meaning to tiny interactions. A compliment becomes hope. Attention becomes intimacy. Kindness becomes possibility. And then reality enters the room for 5 seconds, and suddenly someone feels rejected by a relationship that never technically existed. That's the part that nobody wants to admit. Sometimes people mourn futures they invented themselves. And when that fantasy breaks, they don't always leave dramatically. Sometimes they stay. Sometimes they become colder, sharper, passive-aggressive. Sometimes they try to regain dignity publicly after feeling emotionally exposed privately. And honestly, I don't even think he was evil. That's what makes it sad. I think he was lonely. I think he wanted connection. I think he got emotionally attached. I think my clarification embarrassed him. And I think embarrassment mutates into resentment extremely easily online, because there's no healthy closure mechanisms here. No real-world distance. No social accountability. No emotional maturity requirement. Just vibes, avatars, late-night conversations, and people projecting entire fantasies onto each other through profile pictures and Discord notifications. The internet creates emotional intimacy faster than human beings are psychologically prepared for. And sometimes, the moment that you stop fitting the role someone silently cast you in, they stop seeing you as a person entirely.